before I even bothered to put on my makeup, I took a minute to have a little Zoom with Alicia Garza. Now, y'all know Garza. She's the principal of the Black Futures Lab and author of the extremely necessary new book, The Purpose of Power: How We Come Together When Things Fall Apart. And I asked her what her call to action is for this moment. She urged all of us to stay in the fight.
Well, there's a few things we have to be mindful of. Number one, media is still getting acclimated to what protest is and what protest isn't, and who protesters are and who protesters are not. And unfortunately, what that means is that there's going to be all kinds of stories that are out there about looting and rioting and violence, when actually there's not enough effort spent on talking about who is behind any of those activities. What we've seen time and time again all throughout the summer is that white militias and white nationalists are being organized and they're being activated. In Minneapolis, we saw that there were white nationalists who blended into protests and tried to create chaos inside of protests. We saw a guy named the Umbrella Man, right, who was taking an umbrella and smashing windows along a business corridor. And what the news media was saying was, this is a Black Lives Matter protester. We also saw later on, just a couple of weeks ago, actually, in Minneapolis, that there were a number of people who were charged with property destruction, with violence, with shooting at police precincts. And these are people who plant themselves inside of protests to create chaos and to shift the narrative about why people are out there and what is actually happening. So we have to be mindful of that. And we also have to push news media to ask more questions. Number two, I think we also have to be mindful of the fact that, you know, in this moment, because there are forces that are trying to create chaos, that protests will often be seen as an opportunity to have a global stage for what is a political debate. And this is sad and unfortunate, because during protests, often what we see is the arrival of military and police force. And when there is harm that's being done inside of gatherings, not enough people ask who is causing the harm, but also not enough people are savvy enough to understand when it's a trap. And so it's important for us to continue, as viewers, as consumers of news, it's important for us to continue to ask the kinds of questions that we need to, including reading between the lines. Who are the people who are gathering? What are they there gathering for? And what is the agenda that they're trying to move?
Everything we've been doing, everything you're up to in your local community, whether it's partnering with organizations like Color of Change, voting, forcing the question, ensuring change on behalf of racial justice, all of those actions must continue even after the final vote is counted.